In the year 2023, a tragic incident unfolded that sent shockwaves through a North Carolina community. This case involved the senseless murder of Brandi Deal. Her death left a profound void. The circumstances surrounding her passing were particularly heartbreaking. This event has deeply shaken the residents of the area. The community has been left to grapple with immense grief and mourning. Give a like and subscribe. Leave a comment. Brandi Deal was a young mother. She was expecting her fourth child. Her life was tragically cut short just hours before she was scheduled to give birth. She was at her home when the attack occurred. Her residence was a trailer. It was there that the violence found her. Brandi Deal sustained multiple gunshot wounds. These injuries proved fatal. Her life and the life of her unborn child were extinguished in an instant. The shooting took place in 2023. It was a violent act directed at Brandi Deal's home. Shots were fired into her trailer. These shots originated from a moving vehicle. The vehicle was identified during the subsequent investigation. Its movements were critical to understanding the crime. The driver of this vehicle was later identified as Tammy Duckworth Boone. She was operating the car from which the fatal shots were fired. Her role was integral to the commission of the crime. The individual who discharged the firearm was Dylan Rogers. He was a passenger in the vehicle driven by Boone. His actions directly caused Brandi Deal's death. Following the shooting, Brandi Deal's boyfriend discovered her condition. He immediately contacted emergency services. He placed a 911 call seeking urgent help. He reported finding a person in cardiac arrest. This initial assessment reflected the critical state he found her in. Emergency responders were dispatched to the scene. Deputies from the local sheriff's office were among the first to arrive. They secured the area. They began assessing the situation upon entry into the residence. Upon examination, deputies quickly determined the true nature of the incident. They found Brandi Deal had suffered multiple gunshot wounds. The situation was far more complex than initially reported. A comprehensive investigation was launched immediately. Detectives took charge of the scene. Their goal was to piece together the events and identify those responsible. A critical part of the investigation involved conducting interviews. Detectives spoke with numerous individuals. They sought any information that could shed light on the shooting deaths. Multiple people were interviewed. These included neighbors, friends, and anyone who might have had knowledge relevant to the case. Every lead was pursued diligently. Detectives also focused on technological evidence. They reviewed available video surveillance footage. This footage was crucial in tracking movements related to the crime. Surveillance cameras from nearby locations provided valuable recordings. These cameras captured activity in the vicinity of the residence. The footage offered potential clues about the perpetrators. The surveillance footage showed the area around the residence where Brandi Deal was shot. It helped investigators establish a timeline. It also provided descriptions of vehicles and individuals. Through the meticulous review of interviews and surveillance footage, investigators made significant progress. They were able to identify two primary suspects. These individuals were linked to the vehicle and the shooting. The investigation identified Dylan Rogers as the shooter. It also identified Tammy Duckworth Boone as the driver of the vehicle. Their roles in the crime became clear. The legal process followed for the two identified suspects differed. Each faced charges related to the death of Brandi Deal and her unborn child. Their cases proceeded through the court system. Dylan Rogers, aged 32 at the time of his conviction, was the first to face trial. He was accused of directly causing the deaths. The evidence against him was presented in court. Rogers was previously convicted following a trial. The trial lasted for 2 weeks. It involved extensive testimony and presentation of evidence. He was convicted of second-degree murder. This charge related to the death of Brandi Deal. The jury found him guilty of this serious offense. Rogers was also convicted of the murder of an unborn child. This charge reflected the tragic loss of Brandi Deal's baby. The law recognizes the life of an unborn child in such cases. Following his conviction, Dylan Rogers was sentenced. The sentence reflected the severity of his crimes. He received a life sentence. Specifically, he was sentenced to life without parole. This means he will spend the remainder of his life incarcerated. There is no possibility of release. Tammy Duckworth Boone, aged 52, also appeared in Burke County Superior Court. She faced charges related to her involvement. Her case took a different path than Rogers'. Boone initially faced murder charges. These charges were based on her role in driving the vehicle from which the shots were fired. She was considered an accomplice. However, during the legal proceedings, the judge made a significant ruling. The judge dismissed the murder charges against her. This decision altered the course of her case. Despite the dismissal of the murder charges, Boone still faced other serious accusations. She ultimately pleaded guilty to different charges. This plea agreement resolved her case without a trial on the murder counts. She pleaded guilty to discharging a firearm into an occupied dwelling from a moving vehicle. This charge directly addressed her action of driving the car during the shooting. It is a felony offense. Boone also pleaded guilty to obstruction of justice. This charge suggests actions taken after the shooting to hinder the investigation or protect herself or others. The specifics of this obstruction were part of the plea agreement. She was convicted for her role in driving the vehicle. Her conviction acknowledged her essential participation in the crime. Without her driving, the shooting from a moving car would not have occurred. Tammy Duckworth Boone received a prison sentence. The sentence was determined based on her guilty pleas and criminal history. It included a minimum term of incarceration. She received a minimum 55-month prison sentence. This translates to over 4.5 years. The maximum sentence could be longer, depending on sentencing guidelines. Both Rogers and Boone have been processed following their convictions. They are being transferred to North Carolina adult corrections facilities. They will serve their sentences within the state prison system. The resolution of this case, while bringing legal closure, cannot erase the pain. The case highlights the devastating impact of violence. It underscores how quickly lives can be shattered. It highlights the profound loss of life. Not only was a young mother taken, but also her unborn child. This dual tragedy amplifies the community's sorrow. The district attorney involved in the prosecution emphasized the gravity of the crimes. Their statements reflected the state's view of the offenses. The prosecution sought accountability for the deaths. The district attorney noted the disregard for human life shown by the perpetrators. Firing into an occupied home demonstrates a reckless indifference to the safety of others. This disregard led to the ultimate consequence. The convictions of Dylan Rogers and Tammy Duckworth Boone bring a measure of justice. The legal system has held them accountable for their actions. This is a necessary step in the aftermath of such a crime. These convictions also bring a degree of closure to the community. While grief remains, the legal process has concluded. The individuals responsible have been identified and sentenced. However, it is widely acknowledged that no sentence, regardless of its length, can fully heal the pain caused by this tragedy. The loss of Brandi Deal and her child is permanent. The impact on her family and friends is immeasurable. The legal outcomes represent the state's response to the criminal acts. They do not restore what was lost. The community continues to mourn and process the events of that day in 2023. The transfer of both Rogers and Boone to North Carolina adult corrections facilities marks the next phase for them. They will serve their time as mandated by the court. The legal chapter of this case is closed, but the human cost endures.